This day began like any other day in my 11 years.
In my 26 years.
In my 19 years.
In my 58 years.
In my 30 years. I awoke to the sound of a cry.
The sound of the world passing by.
Out the door, time to fly.
Get my piece of the pie.
But this pain I could not deny.
I've got to try. With images of simple things, to the passers-by their hearts will sing. I guess the hobo to me represents a person without a venue to show their art or a home to sleep in. And at times in my life personally, I've been on the streets and I didn't have, a meal for that night. And as far as the art world goes, I've always felt like an outsider and a hobo, so to speak. So I thought he would be a good person to represent my artwork, being as how it was, a transient art form, so to speak.
I've been a commercial artist for a little over 20 years and have done it long enough that when I first started, I had the rare experience of sellout shows and actually making an income on my art. But as we all know, the economy tanked and things changed, and I still needed to produce to satisfy myself because I always want to create. Taos is kind of a landscape painter's town, and being an abstract artist, I feel kind of like a fugitive here, and so I work with that chip on my shoulder sometimes and try to keep it at bay.
I was born and raised here in Taos, New Mexico, and I'm a third-generation artist, and I've watched my father struggle through the art world here in Taos, and I've seen some become great and others be swept under the table. I think that if you're not in a certain genre of art in this town, it's hard to get ahead doing anything as far as that goes, and I've never pushed myself too hard to be part of the art scene because I've seen a lot of the requirements and it doesn't suit my taste and what I like to do as far as art goes. So I do what I do and enjoy it, but Taos could use a little diversity in their art.
When you're President of the United States, you are President of all the people, not just the people who voted for you.
We from a hobo, we on a mission to save the world. If you know what's going on, it's gonna make your head swirl. People dying, people crying, and I'm asking why. We just trying to put a message out. World peace, we all shout out. Yeah, stop pollution, stop destroying and ruining it. Start making art, yeah. But don't just use a pencil and a piece of paper, or use your heart, yeah. And if you know that, you're smart, cause it ain't about paint or price.
One day, Scripture and I had a conversation about both being prolific artists, and I joked about the fact that I produce so much art that I'm practically sleeping with it.
I think the reason for free art was the lack of space. Personally, for me, I had so much artwork and I was making jokes saying, I can't give this stuff away. So it struck me that, I could afford to give it away and it might be funny to try and see if I could give it away.
We both laughed, but within a couple of minutes, we realized we were onto something. Scripture really rocked my world by saying it was going to be on cardboard. We picked up scrap cardboard from various stores in town that discarded out the back door, so we had an ample supply. When Scripture brought up the idea of guerrilla art, it was both exciting and terrifying at the same time. I've never really been in trouble with my art, except to be criticized by galleries when I bring in a piece that's completely outside the genre of what I have created. And so for a long time, I felt like the work I created had an expectation on it already from other people, and this project just blew the doors wide open. And the added element of possibly getting arrested or being sued or whatever, the mind reels. But it also fueled the passion of creating larger and larger work. We'd come up with a plan for the design, knock out the work, one of our studios, and mostly outside, and it was winter, so we'd be standing in snow sometimes, working with cardboard and acrylic paints. So that was kind of a challenge, wearing heavy coats and gloves. Our hands were freezing.
The installations that we do, we would put one piece of original art by one individual artist, and that would be another little bonus that we would leave behind with our pieces. As that grew, the pieces got bigger and bigger and, more beautiful and just donated by individuals that were so talented and so giving, and it became something that was, a lot different from what we expected it to be, and it just grew, and it was beautiful to see that free art actually had an effect on a lot of people. Something free is rare, so it was definitely different, and it was a beautiful thing to see.
The theme was about giving, and once we got a firm grasp of that, we produced a lot of work, an amazing amount of work that we gave freely. I know so many artists in Taos that when they're asked, how are you, it's always related to how their art is selling, not how their level of creativity or happiness is. It's all related to art sales. And somehow that just kind of turned my stomach. So the idea of giving really stirred that up for me and turned it around. Both of us at one time or another came to the end of our rope, and at one point we almost came to fists, and other times one or the other of us would rant about how we were tired of giving and didn't see the purpose of it anymore. And luckily, because of our friendship, one or the other would talk the other back from the cliff, and within minutes we'd both be ready to start producing and giving again. That was a great gift for me.
Just thinking about the system or thoughts that run through your head as you work on a project as such. It's broken, it's not working, dead end, and still we follow it, institutions, courts, police, military, governments, it's all human error, we do a good job of messing things up. So, walking around my hometown, I see nothing but abandoned buildings and a failing economy. Got a little baby boy who's just getting a start in this world that we're preparing for him, as we suck up resources, that should be preserved somehow for the future, for the next generation. But yeah, we keep taking it for ourselves and, disregarding the big picture. So, I'm creating big pictures to put up there, I'm sick of staring at McDonald's signs and product placement and, just advertisement by big wig corporations that have the money, the assets, and the resources to get their image out there and to push it into your mind, willingly or unwillingly, with the amount of resources and capabilities that you can obtain with the amount of money that they work with. So just trying a different way, seeing something positive comes out of this. Been interesting to watch so far. It's a social experiment more than anything, and it's good shit, man. I'm having a good time doing it. I'm trying to change something, shake up the system, burn down the system, bomb the system, and I say that in terms of art, bomb, put up graffiti, burn down by, blazing fire, and, just, this is not a peaceful protest, it's not a, vanity thing, it's not a promotional thing, it's a group of people that are fed up with the way the institution, has the final say in, most everything these days, and trying to do something outside of the norm and different from, from some of the pack, not all of the pack, it's, it's like Bill Hicks said, people that hate people come together, it's hard to do, because you have your views and your opinions, and, when you're an artist and you get stuck in your headset, it's hard to express sometimes through words, and, the easiest way to go about doing that is through art and expression. So that's, what I'm trying to do here is, give the world a little taste of, what's going on in my head, and, hopefully, people see it for what it is, and, appreciate it and have a still moment where there's entertainment and appreciation in art without having to walk into a building and deal with the curator or a spiel of how something came to be, but completely free, you know. So big up one time, bless, alaya. Outside the gallery paradigm, outside the museum paradigm, outside the art venue paradigm, outside the culture paradigm, stepping outside the box into a zone of slight discomfort, treading on legal issues, always abandoned property.
The installation process of the FreeheART movement grew in size as we continued our project. We started out small and moved on to larger, like 8-foot panels, and from there we saw the size and the capability that we had with the abandoned buildings, the urban blight here in Taos, and we decided to go as big as we could. So we came up with ideas that, you know, reached 3 stories tall, 25 feet. It was amazing to see the size of the installations grow.
The scale of the work we did on cardboard was so huge that from a distance it didn't pay to do detail. It looked like detail from a distance. All of the art we generated for the installations and the original art we left was left with the intention that it was for the taking. It was free.
And if it were up to me, we'd all treat each other right. In the shadow puppet string master, who's the puppeteer, writing the story behind the scene, deciding what the public hears. Cast your vote. Freeze frame, familiar phrase, a flickering picture of pixels plastered on a page. They market the soul and got your life in their hands. And best believe they got the list of demands. Just remember, nobody but you owns your soul, and the way you live your life is beyond anyone's control. Just one last thing I'll say before I go. Just remember, survival, drop if you're gold.
Nothing was ever charged for admission. You didn't have to walk into a gallery and be accosted by a curator to answer or ask questions. It was just out in the public, free form. Because we decided that all the art was free, including the installations, we had no idea how long the installations would stay up. And we kind of had an investment in it, you know, with our egos, because it was so big and so out there and in everybody's face. And we were shocked that almost immediately, in some cases, the art was gone. And in most or all cases, by the end of the day, there wasn't a sign that the installation had ever happened.
So through the size of the town and the size spec of the art that we were putting up, we ended up getting a lot of feedback on our project. And one of the things that Alpha did was set up a Facebook account and get our name out there somewhat. And just through the friends that we had through our own accounts, their interest grew, and they told their friends, and their friends told their friends. And before we knew it, we were posting the location of our installations the same day that we did it, and giving the free art alongside the installations. So we were posting coordinates to GeoTrack, and there were people that were waiting ready to go, and they were going and finding the artwork. And I was told that, you know, it was some of the best times that some of these guys had hanging out together looking for art. And the people that would get the artwork would respond to us on Facebook and let us know that either they saw the installation or they scored a piece of free art. And as this continued, the amount of friends that we had through the Hobo website was growing, and the interest was growing.
When we finally got around to finishing one installation, we knew the next step was to put it up, and so we came up with a plan to get in and out as fast as possible. We had our tools, our staple guns, duct tape, various things that we used to put things up, and just at fever pitch, just jumped out of the car, did the installation, got back in the car to get away, and then sometimes if we had the nerve, we'd cruise back by the scene of the crime and check it out, really get off on it, take pictures of it, come home, post it on Facebook the same day so that we could let others know where it was. Sometimes we used geo coordinates from Google Earth, and the fact that we left original art there also, they'd be ready to pounce a lot of times.
and through the Facebook we obtained a lot of people that were willing to help and be part of the movement and help with the installations. So from me and Alpha doing the installations by ourselves, setting up the camera by ourselves and running the materials around, we ended up with a crew that was helping us use ladders, reload staple guns, and put up the art. So it was a growing movement, and it was really fun to be a part of it and to be out there kind of on the front lines, just doing something different, giving the people something to look at that was outside of the art venues and the galleries, and it really grew.
At one point, Promo Hobo Project was contacted by an English teacher at UNM, and she wanted us to do a presentation to her English class, which was mostly freshmen and a few sophomores, so they were young people. We really didn't understand the scope of it, but we went anyway, gave a little presentation, talked about the project in general, and shared one of the videos, wrapped up the presentation and left, not really knowing what the impact was on the kids. In fact, I saw a few of them look like they might be falling asleep, and of course I just figured everybody would be bored with what we had to say. The next day the teacher called and told us that it impacted the kids so much that after we left, a few of them were moved to tears, and many of them recommitted to art that they had let go of, and said that they had no idea that art could be used so powerfully for change and for public expression. We know now, hearing stories from people that we're still meeting, it kind of took the town by storm, and we realized that the installations pretty much lit a match that needed to be lit in this town. We had no idea the sheer numbers of people that kind of, in some ways, in their own ways, felt like we did, frustrated with the social norms of art and gallery institutions and museum institutions. In fact, my work during the project was represented by 2 galleries in Taos. One of the gallery owners was so excited about what we were doing that he actually showed up and helped video and contributed in other ways. And sadly, the other gallery just thought that we were trashing galleries. I think one of the most satisfying things for me and both of us actually was the fact that it really sparked an interest in the youth in Taos, and all the way down to 11 years old and all the way into their 70s, especially working with these younger people who had never been exposed to putting their art in galleries and what it took to do that, and didn't even consider it because it just seemed like too much work and took away from the value of creating art. So it was a fresh new view of the art world for me, seeing what they were creating and coming up with and contributing.
We got contacted by an editor of the local newspaper who brought us in and asked if he could have an interview and do a piece on us. And through this, we had to decide that someone would be the spokesperson for the Hobo.
You're popping your peas again.
We couldn't go completely anonymous. He had to have one name at least to quote, so the Alpha stepped it up and gave his name and became the spokesperson from there. And through that, we waited patiently for the paper to come out, and when it did, the size and the scale of what he put together for us was amazing. He gave us the cover of the local paper and a 7-page spread on what we were doing, and the views and opinions of his versus ours, and the reason for what we were doing and what he thought the reason was, and everything. It started a whole urban blight conflict in the town, and they wanted to tear down dilapidated buildings and get the town somewhat cleaned up, which was never, part of our movement. Not to say it was a bad thing that happened, but it was interesting to see the public's take on what was going on. It became a little bit about the urban blight more so than the artwork.
The idea that we turn the paradigm around and start giving, with the underlying understanding that if everybody gave, everybody'd have enough. So we started not only making installation art, but leaving a piece of original art at the sites. Pretty exciting for us, and also we got a great response from other people. The big art show was the grand finale for Promo Hobo FreeheART. We put out a call for artists on our Facebook page and got a lot of responses. Between the art we made already and what was donated, the shed was full, so the rest got moved into Alpha's house. The generosity of the artists was inspiring to see. We received art of every medium imaginable and then some. The show was coming together. The day of the installation was exciting to say the least. We arrived with a borrowed truck and had to make our own way in since someone had recently moved large boulders to block the entrances. It was a beautiful Sunday morning. We worked in broad daylight. It was a much nicer day than the previous week, when we had to reschedule the show due to high winds and snow. With the amount of volunteers who showed up to help with the installation, we made quick work of it. As soon as the show was up, I ran off to post the geo-coordinates on Facebook. Once Scripture hung the final sign, he turned around to see that we had accomplished our final goal in creating an art venue different from any other in New Mexico.
Broken buildings up in the city, tags on everyone, what a pity. I wanna see something pretty, for real. Take a look at my art, it won't kill ya, but it might fill up your heart with this beautiful art. Yeah, I wanna see something pretty in this town that'll turn your frown upside down, make you look around and see what's going down. We from a hobo, we on.
So tell me about the show here.
Well, we've got about 20 hobos that are involved in this, and they've contributed some original art. A lot of it is
Bring it in, hobo.
younger, local, really talented people that have really never bothered to get into galleries, but their work is incredible, and it's all hanging, and it's free art. It's for the taking.
Why this spot?
The urban blight looked like it could use a little facelift, so we decided we'd use it here, being as how this is a building we see every day. And we thought we could pretty it up a little bit for the people of Taos, and that's what we did.
Now the big question is, do you have permission to do this?
No, sometimes it's better to ask forgiveness than ask permission, so that's the approach we took here.
Okay.
Forgive us.
Forgive us for making beauty. Mother Nature said.
If the police show up, what's the strategy?
Run.
You're going to be the only one here to talk to them.
Yeah, basically, if they want to protect the public from us, they'll have to do their job, but we'll just face that if it happens. Everything's very temporary, comes down in seconds. It's just stapled to old plywood, so no damage to the property whatsoever, and there's thousands of dollars of art over there for the taking.
Okay. Well, they're not.
So right now they're actually trespassing if the owner didn't give them permission, and that's the call that we just got. That they're trespassing because he did not give people permission to do all this stuff.
Right, but it's pretty sweet, right?
Huh?
It's pretty cool, the artwork.
Yeah, but you're also breaking the law because you're trespassing and you're defacing property that doesn't belong to you.
Yeah, but wouldn't you rather look at this artwork than look at the building?
That's beside the point. The point is laws are made to protect people's property, and yeah, of course it is an abandoned building, and it is scheduled possibly for to be demolished, but when you're trespassing on somebody's property that doesn't belong to you, you're breaking the law.
Okay, you're a couple of artists that are in the show. How does it make you feel to see this area kind of closed off? As far as I know, the police have said that they're not going to take it down, but they are going to restrict people from being able to go up close to it, onto the property.
I think it's very unfortunate because the whole idea of this piece is to free our art and for people to be able to take these pieces, and it's for the community, and it seems like they're shutting them out right now. I mean, the pieces that are on the walls, they're not really, if you go and grab them, you can't really get hurt, so I don't see why they have to block off this whole area.
Yeah, I understand that they're enforcing the code and they're trying to keep the public safe, but our whole point as the promo hobo artists are to take old abandoned buildings that are filled with graffiti that's not edifying for the community, that's not good for young people, that's violent, that's, gang-oriented, and fill it with things that are beautiful and things that will speak to people. And I think it's good because it brings up a lot of controversy, and people start talking when there's controversy, and they start to look at things a little bit differently and question what we're doing, question what they're doing.
I'm tired of seeing gang signs and tags and AK-49s and people doing crimes. So listen to my rhymes, I wanna see straight lines, no time to wait. So don't be late, we can change fate. Let me open up the gates of freedom. Do you believe in him? I do. He said he'd lead us through. It's true. So let's go through and help him do what he needs to do. Who knew you could die and come back up and fly? So don't cry. We can make a change. Let's try. We from a hobo, we on a mission to save the world. If you know what's going on, then make your head swirl. People dying, people